Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I'm your host, Anish Gupta.
I'm Jake.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Gage.
We got the Totally Unqualified Podcast, the podcast for the qualified, not the unqualified.
Somewhat.
Or
And-
both.
somewhat.
Or both.
Or both, I guess.
Depends.
So I recorded with these guys about, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, and
Mhm.
I had to have these guys on my show. It was, when I tell you guys, that was one of my favorite episodes just on any pod that I've ever recorded. I truly mean that. That was so fun. So
Yeah,
I had
that
to
was
have you
awesome.
guys back on. These guys need to hear some really, some good conversations. And this time we're doing it on, obviously, our channel. But feel free. I will leave all three of their socials in the description, their TikToks, their Instagrams, and obviously Totally Unqualified, which you can find on all platforms just like ours. So be sure to leave them a 5-star rating as well as us down below. We'll leave all those in the description. But we always started off, not a guess that player, because obviously, I mean, if you want, we could go into it. Like, I guess, okay, actually, you know what? We'll do it. Off rip. I got a random player that I have for you guys to guess. And he was an Oklahoma. All right, here are like some of the hints that I'm just literally thinking of right now. But he was an Oklahoma teammate of Baker Mayfield. He got invited
Marquise
to the
Brown.
Nope. He got invited to the Heisman showing the year Lamar Jackson won it. So the year before Baker got it. He's played on the Jaguars. Yeah, I think let's start off with that. And then maybe let's see if you guys can get that.
The
Jaguars in Minnesota. There you go. Those are the two
Minnesota.
Jaguars at Minnesota.
teams.
Is it
Teammate of
Laquan
Baker.
Treadwell?
Nope.
He went to Ole Miss.
Yeah, I was thinking so.
Fuck. All right. Oklahoma teammate, Baker Mayfield. So we're 2017, 2018 here.
Mm.
And then
Yep.
Heisman ceremony with Lamar. He got invited to. Oh, shit.
If you're invited, does that mean he had to have been top 4 in voting, or
Jacksonville.
could you just get invited?
just get
That
invited.
okay. That I'm actually not sure because like
Mm.
he said that both were splitting like votes, so I'm not sure that because like I remember literally because I just thought about it today because I was watching the podcast with Baker Mayfield. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh
I
yeah.
watched the
Yeah.
entire episode,
Mhm.
all 92 minutes of it. But I'm not sure if he did, but I guess I'll give you another hint to make up for it. He was a finalist, by the way. So he got seven.
He was a
seven first
Heisman finalist? What the
place. Seven
fuck?
first place votes. Yep. Yeah.
Teammate of Baker Mayfield.
I'm
Like,
thinking
just
Mark
thinking-
Andrews. Mark Andrews and CeeDee and Marquise Brown come to mind, but obviously it's none of them.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
they-
This one, that's
they-
why it's a harder one. I remember. Okay, yeah. Now I remember. He went and they took a bunch of photos there. It was like 5 of them all there.
It's not
Oh,
Mixon.
One. Stuff.
Offensive player, obviously.
Yep, it's an offensive player.
Oh, wait. Is it? Oh no, I'm not gonna say the Austin Seaver. It's not.
No.
I'll go
Kicker would not get the Heisman.
Yeah.
Terrible kicker for the Browns, by the way.
Yes,
Austin.
terrible.
I'm
Not
stumped.
a good one.
Fuck, bro, this is hard.
It is a hard one.
The Jaguars and then the Vikings? Or the
Yes.
Vikings and then okay.
Those are the only 2 teams he's played for.
Correct.
Is it an offensive lineman?
Nope.
No. What the fuck? Is it a running back?
Nope.
Oh, this is a receiver.
It's got to be a receiver, but what receiver? Oh, D.D. Westbrook.
There you go.
Fuck.
There you
Ah,
go. There you
shit.
go. I was like,
Makes
wait. I was
sense.
like, yeah.
Makes
He's like right
sense.
there because he had
Yeah.
CD, he had Marquise, and I was
Yeah.
like, wait, if he's gonna go lineman, don't go Orlando Brown.
Shit.
But then
I know.
yep,
I
Westbrook.
forgot how good D.D. Westbrook was in college. Holy shit.
He was
Damn.
tremendous. Yeah.
It's been a while.
All right.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard that name in
Well,
a while.
That was it's a long time ago. But hey, that was a good guess. That player off the rip, I guess.
That was.
I think I got you guys
Yeah.
a little
Really
brain
good
teaser
one.
there.
Woo.
Yeah.
If it was on
So
our show with
let's.
the time limit, we wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, luckily we did in time. Good job, Jake. But we're gonna go into, I guess, a draft preview right now. We just uploaded a mock recently, so I'll probably leave a card up there at the top right of your screen if you guys want to check that out. I just did one. But yeah, let's go into a draft preview. I'll kind of go around our little 4-square table here for your favorite prospect. Let's go, favorite prospect first, and if you guys want to touch in most overrated and most underrated, but let's go favorite first. So I'll go with Jake. Who's your favorite NFL draft prospect for 2022?
I feel like these guys know who it's gonna be. It's not Jahan Dotson, actually. It's not
I
Jahan
thought it was
Dotson.
going to be John.
No, it is a Penn Stater, though. It's Jaquan Brisker. I feel like Jaquan Brisker is safety. He's projected to go. Some mock drafts early on had him in the late first. A lot of them now have him in the second, even the third. Jaquan, if you can get Jaquan Brisker in the third, that is unreal value. He's another guy. I just want to say I do have credibility. I called Micah Parsons having Hall of Fame talent last year, and nobody believed me. So
I was with you there. I was with you there.
That went over pretty well. Everybody was criticizing his coverage. I was like, our defense doesn't put him in coverage. So like, how could you even criticize it? He hasn't done it.
Yeah.
But
even when he wasn't that bad.
Yeah, they did it a couple times, and he wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. But yeah, Jaquan Brisker, he's a dog, man. He is all over the field. If you get the chance to watch this guy's tape, go and do it. This man, I mean, he just throws his body around like it's nothing. It seems like he is just a magnet to the ball. He's got the athleticism. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but man, does he pack a punch? Somebody's going to get a steal with this guy in the draft in the later rounds. The Seahawks it's actually the one position we're set at is safety. So we're unfortunately not going to get him, but he's good in coverage. He could hit. He's good in the box. I mean, just an all-around safety that could do it all for you. This guy, I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to be a steal for a team. So Jaquan Brisker, go watch his film if you haven't.
Steal.
That's not a bad one. I saw actually a couple mocks of the Browns scooping him up in the early third. So yeah. I would like that. The only problem is our safety room is kind of deep, and we've already spent a lot of capital there. But it would be I do agree with that. I watched a little bit of it. I watched them with they played, I think, Ohio State. Yeah, that one was a game I watched him in. I'm pretty sure he was in that game. Yeah. And then I saw, I think it was just the Ohio State game I watched out of him, but I haven't been really focusing on Big Ten recently just because a lot of Pac-12 guys. But Luke, you want to get into your favorite one?
Yeah. Mine might be a little bit unpopular, but I want this guy in the Green Bay Packers so much, and I'm putting that energy out there. Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa is just insane. He's a perfect right tackle. Probably not going to play left tackle. He's more of a right tackle, probably not a blind side blocker, but just perfect in a heavy power run scheme. I mean, he's so gritty. He's so just ridiculously strong too. I mean, this guy is everything you want out of an offensive lineman. Just scary as hell too. Like opposing edge rushers don't want to go up against this guy. This guy is just great in the trenches. And like I said, I need him on the Green Bay Packers, especially with AJ Dillon. And now they're trying to become more of a run heavy offense. I think he would work perfectly in any situation, maybe like the Titans as well. I think are a really good fit for him. Just anywhere where you need a culture change on the offensive line to really just, attack those trenches. So I think Trevor Penning, it's projected to go like late first round, maybe mid first round. He rose up draft boards over since the combine. So I think he's going to be outstanding come his time in the league.
I totally agree. I wanted him to go. Like, here's the problem. He's such a talented player, but I think it has to be scheme fit.
Yes.
So like the Saints can't get him because they're not a power run scheme. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was my only touch on Penning. And there's a guy, I don't know if you guys know, he's on Instagram, Brandon Rash NFL. I think that's his full username. He does all offensive line tape. He goes over everything. He has like a website and stuff. He's like my go-to source just to kind of reiterate my initial thoughts on O-lineman. And he raved about Trevor Penning. So he became like one of my favorite tackles in the draft just because of the film he showed on his page. So I agree with you. I think Trevor Penning would be an absolute steal if the Packers can get him with their second first, because I do think they got to go with the receiver. We'll touch on that later, but yeah, they got to go with one there. So Gage, you maybe want to give your favorite prospect in this upcoming draft?
For sure. Yeah. Mine, I think, isn't going to be quite as interesting as these two guys because I feel like this guy's name has been thrown around there a lot. And I'm a big fan of Treylon Burks. I think that Treylon Burks is going to be a great receiver in the league. I know that he ran a little bit slower of a 40 time than people were expecting at a 4.55, but with his versatility and just his size in general, I mean, he's 6'3", 225 pounds. You're getting potentially, and I don't want to throw too much out there, but a guy as versatile as him, Deebo Samuel, with an extra 3 inches and another 10 pounds on him, in my opinion, with just what this guy can do on the field. He did a lot for Arkansas last year, and even the year before that. I think that any team that gets him is going to get a weapon for sure.
I agree. I think you could move him all three all three parts of receiver. You can put him at X, you can put him at Y, you can also put him in the slot. And they used him. They didn't even use him just as that go-to jump ball receiver. Like you could throw screens to him.
Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
used a lot over the middle, which is. I wanted to get into Traylon Burks with Luke over there with the Green Bay Packers. A little preview about that, but maybe before we get into that, I do also want to hear maybe a prospect that you guys think is overrated and a prospect you guys think is underrated. So we'll kind of go around the table again. Jake, you got an overrated and an underrated guy.
Yeah, my overrated guy is going to come across as a shock to a lot of people because he's risen up draft boards very, very quickly. I'm going Malik Willis, and I'm not saying Malik Willis is bad. I don't want that to come out. I'm saying that Malik Willis, he's just the prototypical, has all the tools, and the guy you just fall in love with and just shoots up draft boards at the end.
Yep.
That guy doesn't always pan out. We've seen it go both ways. I think Malik Willis is good. We got to remember this is a guy that couldn't win the job at Auburn. He goes to Liberty. He plays really well, but you got to remember it's Liberty. Like the competition he was going against wasn't all that great. Again, he has all the tools. I just don't think this guy is a top 10 pick, and I think he's going to end up being that. So Malik Willis, I would love him on the Seahawks. I wouldn't love him at number 9. I think this guy is more of a 20. I think he's more of a project than people realize.
Yep.
I don't think he's just going to come out day one, NFL ready, throwing dimes, 40 yards downfield. I don't think that's it at all. I think he's going to have to sit, learn a little bit. People are expecting him at this point to be a day one starter when I really don't think that's the case. I think he needs to sit a little bit and really learn under a veteran quarterback. So I think Malik Willis is a little overrated for that specific reason. But at the end of the day, he's unreal talent, unreal traits. He has all the potential to be a great one. I just don't think he's a top 10 pick and an NFL day one starter right now.
I do agree with that in the sense that because I think the number one thing I've learned again as a scout is just the fixable traits like that. If you have that, that's something at least you can build on. And for Malik, that's what he is. Like you're banking on, all the traits that he can improve on. But you're right. I mean, if you look at it, like this guy threw 3 picks, like he's against like Power 5 teams and like true Power 5 teams, he struggled a lot. I'm forgetting who he threw 3 picks, but he had like 2 games where he threw 3 picks. He had like 11 turnovers in 3 games against Power 5 teams. He's a guy that you need to really develop and give time with. But the traits are there, and I think that's why people are they're banking on upside. And it's not like the dude can't play. I mean, the dude, outside the pocket,
not.
I think he's the best quarterback out when the play collapses or outside the pocket. He's the best improviser in this draft class. The only problem is his tape just doesn't show, he's top 10 worthy. I agree with that. Like in the 2021 class, I would not put him in the first round. He would not have been a first round pick.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot too. And I've thought that for a while. I considered using Malik Willis for my most overrated player, and I won't get into that yet. I'll let Luke give his. But I mean, when did we start talking about Malik Willis as QB1?
Right.
When he was seen giving his clothes to a homeless guy on the streets, which is awesome. You love to see that. You love to see those intangibles and stuff like that. A guy that you think can be a good guy, a good locker room presence and all that. But I feel like that's really when it started, when he started to get the publicity and everything. And now he's getting a little bit overrated for what he really brings as a day one guy.
I think it's all about where he ends up. I think he's obviously a project quarterback, not going to start year one. I think you definitely have to sit him. I really like him to the Lions, actually. I've been starting to think about him to the Lions. The Lions might even potentially take him at 2. I wouldn't, but I mean, if with such a need for quarterback and teams trading up, I mean, why not go and get him there? Especially if you have another late first round pick there in the first. But he's gonna have to sit a year. He's a project quarterback, but like you said, like the intangibles are there, the athleticism is there, just some things to work on overall. And I think sitting behind a veteran like Jared Goff, although he's may not be the best quarterback to sit behind for a year, I think would do Malik Willis really, really good.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think also, Gage, the reason why he started becoming everyone's QB1 was after Corral's injury. Like before, it used to be like Corral was pretty, heavily talked about. And then obviously when he went down, everyone's like, oh, can he come back the same? It looked pretty bad.
I think
Right now, who
yeah,
are
I
we?
think there's a
And no,
lot that played into it. I can agree
Yeah.
with that. I think we started talking about him when, obviously the whole publicity thing, he gave his clothes away. And then Matt Corral's injury obviously played into it.
He had a great combine. He was a combine guy.
Kenny
He was
Pickett's
exactly,
size.
yeah.
and
Unreal measurements. Yeah.
and
Unreal
Kenny Pickett's
throws.
small hands. And
Yeah.
just the
Yeah,
whole
I mean-
nine. Everything played in his favor.
yeah, that is I think combine isn't really an overreaction type thing. For me, it's just a checklist. Like, do you check the
Yeah.
boxes? Right? Because it's not
box,
gonna
yeah.
it's not gonna drop you tremendously. Like Kyle Hamilton, sure, he had not the best 40, but there's no denying he's still a top 15 pick, no doubt. Like if he slips out the top 15, then I mean that there's got to be like something else that's like health wise, right? And pro days again, it's
situation.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Just again, checklist for me. Same thing with pro day. Pro day for me can't really like Mac Jones missed throws at his pro day. He missed throws. Like Bill Belichick, there was like times where Bill Belichick was like scoffing. What happened? He went pick 15 to the Patriots. So for me, I think pro day is also just. I mean, it's very hard to have a bad pro day, in my opinion.
Did I say Laquan Treadwell? I meant Laramie Tunsil. I think I had a stroke.
That's
there.
okay. I heard T, and I just assumed Tunsil. I think
Yeah.
audio got cut off, but yeah,
I meant Laramie Tunsil, obviously. Yeah.
yeah. Laquan was a first round pick, but had a different turnaround.
Yeah.
Let's just say one followed up to be a pretty good left tackle, the other one followed up to be not
Yeah.
so good of a wide receiver. But yeah, I think it's Luke's turn for overrated prospect.
Yeah. And like, I don't think he's like overrated per se, but just because he's projected to go number 1 overall in a lot of mock drafts that I'm seeing now, I think it's Trayvon Walker. I think Trayvon Walker is going to be a top 10 pick, but I would not put him over Aiden Hutchinson. I wouldn't even put him over Kayvon Thibodeau. He's kind of just skyrocketed in recent weeks. There's a lot of love for him around the NFL, but like overall, I don't think he has the what are the right words? Like the get off the ball type athleticism, like the quickness that you want out of a deep lineman like that. Especially if you're going to pick him number 1 overall. If you're the Jaguars, I would not put him over Aiden Hutchinson. Like I said, I think Aiden Hutchinson should be the clear number 1 overall pick coming off of his Heisman winning season. Like he's the guy that I think should be number 1 overall. I think he is the end all be all of this class when it comes to pass rushers. I think Trayvon Walker in this case, just because he's projected to go in like the top 3, let's say, just skyrocketing, I think he's a little bit overrated at this point.
I mean, I think for Trayvon Walker, it's just like you can put him in a 4 down front. I think he's a pretty good edge. The only thing, like, they're trying to say like, oh, both had good combines, him and Jordan Davis. The thing is, like with Jordan Davis, it's just nose tackles like him. They just don't have as much impact as a guy as Trayvon Walker can. And it is kind of positional type of thing. Like, because like as good as Jordan Davis is, Aaron Donald is him, but like way more lean and more like of a freak athlete, right? Like Jordan Davis is not going to be like, his tape does not represent just his combine stats. So for Trayvon Walker, it's his upside and it's just his positional value too. It's what I think is propelling him. But I do agree. I think there is a little bit of a cutoff between Hutchinson and Walker. My only thing with Hutchinson is his arms are kind of short. So offensive linemen will have an advantage when they go true like hand-to-hand combat on pass protection. But I think you're right. Like to say he's top 3, I mean, again, people on my staff and everywhere in the Pac-12 and just I think rave about Kayvon. The only thing with him is just maybe lack of consistency in the last, maybe couple years. But talent-wise, I would also take Kayvon just because of his upside. I don't know why they're saying Trayvon's is more. I would say Kayvon's is Kayvon over Trayvon. Yeah.
Trayvon Walker is another guy that I considered for my most overrated because I feel like a lot of it does stem from the combine. Like we were just talking about Kyle Hamilton, for example, where maybe his combine didn't play out quite like people were expecting. So you think that might hurt him a little bit, but his on the field play says a lot more than that combine did. Whereas Trayvon Walker, it feels almost the opposite, where his combine is speaking a lot more for him than his actual on field play did for me.
Right.
So it's definitely going to be interesting to see, but I think he's a little bit overhyped right now too.
Right. I think he only had 6 sacks his final year with Georgia. I mean, he also played alongside Nakobe Dean, Devante Wyatt, Jordan Davis. I mean, like that was
very true.
And those are all guys that are probably going to go up in the first round this year, which is crazy.
Exactly. So yeah, Gage, you want to round it out with the most overrated, or not most over, but like a guy you think is.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going back-to-back receivers here, and I feel like some people might be a little bit upset over this one. I am not as high on Drake London as a lot of people are.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say J-Mo. I was about to.
No,
tear your head off
not J-Mo.
there. Okay,
J-Mo's
good.
great. But Drake
Yeah.
London, to me, I feel like he is a very risky pick if you take him very high, because you're getting another guy in the league that isn't the best at separating. He uses his body a lot. He uses his strength, and that's totally fine. But it's just such a big risk because you could get Mike Evans, where, he's got a little bit of tools in his bag and, he's got that speed to kind of help him out. Or you could get N'Keal Harry, who, was a great jump ball receiver in college. And then that went on to bite the Patriots in the ass later on. So I feel like there's a very high ceiling for him, but there's also a very low floor. So I feel like in the first round, maybe late first round, but I think early to mid, you're just taking too much of a risk, in my opinion.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that. I mean, again, same thing, like, people around I've been talking to, Drake London's tape, the problem with him is just he cannot separate. And in this league, separation is so key, right? Now, his route running, I'm not going to say it's bad or anything, but it really would just come down to, can he grab the ball over the defender? Like that's like a lot of his throws and a lot of his targets would just come down to it, like especially in the red zone and the end zone. And that's not necessarily a fully knock on him, because he did come down with a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's just, my question is, right, in this type of league where corners play a lot more physical, they're sturdier, more built, right? Can you really do the same type of things we were seeing you do in the Pac-12? And that for me is still a question, which is why, I got Garrett Wilson and J-Mo for sure over him. I think those two
absolutely
are that, and he would not, and I said this too in the last 3 draft classes, he would not be close to wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
He would not be close
totally
to
agree with that.
first receiver pick. So
I mean, a lot of receivers can go up and get it, but like the top end receivers are the ones creating separation, like a Devante Adams, like a Cooper Kupp, and they're not go up and get it guys per se, although they can at points. I would tend to agree. I still think Drake London is probably going to be the first receiver taken off the board, though.
I think the only thing I would say to that, Luke, is if the Falcons were to take, the Falcons would take a Garrett Wilson over a Drake London. I mean, I think Washington's going to end up with the latter, or whichever. And if Atlanta doesn't take a receiver, then obviously Washington's going to be stoked.
Yeah.
I think Washington will end up with, hopefully, if the Jets or Falcons, I think one of them will take one. And then Washington will get the second.
Washington with Drake London. That's kind of the guy that they need.
That's exactly. That's why I'm hoping.
Samuel. Yeah.
I'm hoping he slides that way, because he would fit perfectly with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel. That way, you have your guy that you just line up at X with Drake London. Terry is going to get you, run all types of routes at all 3 levels. And then Curtis is your guy at Z. But yeah, I think for Drake that it's got to be also a little bit of fit. Like Mike Evans too. As much as we compare them to each other, Mike can still separate. Like he's still quicker off the edge.
His curl routes, his comebacks and stuff like that are his bread and butter. He burned
Jalen Ramsey in the playoffs there.
Right. Exactly.
No Walker in that divisional round game.
And fit wise too, like the back shoulder throws all go to Chris Godwin. So Evans doesn't really have to run those type of routes. It's mainly to CG. Evans is, again, similar guy. You just put up at X, and then, whether it's those angle routes that he can get over the middle in, that, combusted area, or just go, down the field on a fly and, grab it. So I agree with all 3 of your guys' prospects. I guess we'll maybe skip. I mean, if you guys want to go quick underrated guy you guys want to touch on before we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. This, I didn't even think, this is going to sound stupid to some people, but I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau. This is how the fuck did this guy go from the consensus number 1 player in the draft to does he get drafted in the top 10? Does that happen? It's I'm looking at Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 prospects. He has him at number 10. What did Kayvon Thibodeau do to fall? It's just other people it's the hype train of the other guys that are just being not. Why is he the guy that we're knocking down? Why? Like, I know it's got to be somebody if you're going to move somebody up, but it's just always Kayvon Thibodeau. Every time it's like, oh, this guy just jumped to the top 10. Oh, who got knocked down? Kayvon Thibodeau. Like this is wild that this guy was the number one overall prospect. We talked to Alex Forsyth, center at Oregon. He told us how much of an athletic freak of nature Kayvon Thibodeau is. Like, yeah, he doesn't have all the speed in the world, but Jesus, can this guy like get around attack? Like, it's insane. So I hope he's available. Now, am I sad that this is happening? No, because the Seahawks, I swear, if they don't scoop him up at 9, if he's still there, I'm going to be furious. But the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau moving down to like maybe kind of out of people's top 10 prospects is wild. And it's just unnecessary. It shouldn't be happening. He's a guy that's going to make you pay for drafting him late. He's a guy that's going to make you pay for not being a top 10. You want to put that chip on his shoulder? I mean, good fucking luck. You're going to be looking back and be like, why the fuck did we take Jermaine Johnson ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau? What the fuck were we thinking? It's going to be that situation. It's going to be because this guy did nothing to fall from the consensus first overall pick just a few months ago. His tape is insane. His athleticism, unreal. Did he have as amazing of a pro? Like his stats were unreal. His measurements were unreal at his pro day in the combine. No, okay, that he didn't have that. But he's just watch the film. Watch the film. The guy's a monster. He should be a top 10 pick. If he falls past pick 5, I'm gonna be like, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. I can't believe I'm saying Kayvon Thibodeau is underrated, but he's becoming underrated.
I agree with that. I think he should be a top five pick here. I mean, I think the only thing with why people are maybe dropping him off is just because he was the consensus guy. And I think this past season was a little bit disappointing just because of how, he didn't play all the games. And also there were moments where you really didn't see him. For me, an edge rusher that I look at and is truly elite is a guy that I see just jump out my screen. Like that, there's a little bit of that eye test there. And at times I kind of missed it with him, but there other times, that's why I think for him, like there's that's with him and Aiden, it's just Aiden is every down type of guy. Yeah. And Kayvon just a little bit of a hit or miss. So I think that's what got at scouts a little bit. But to say he's not a top 5 prospect, I just disagree with.
Yeah. I feel like people are comparing him a little bit to like Jadeveon Clowney and how his career panned out after getting drafted number 1 overall. Right. And I could see the similarities in the way that they play.
Clowney's a great player when he's healthy, though.
I mean, he's not a bad player. I mean, for God's sakes, but yeah, I can see the comparisons just in the way that they play, the way that they're built as well. So yeah, since Jake won't say it, I will. The most underrated player in this draft is Jahan Dodson.
Damn right.
I mean,
cheers.
Yeah, between the athleticism, just the pure speed, the ability to break away from the defender, he has it all. He also has to go up and get it. Catch, attack at the point of the ball ability. He's going to be great no matter where he goes. I hope it's Green Bay. I'm hoping that Green Bay drafts everybody in this draft. If you haven't noticed by now, just every single prospect. That's who I want. No, this guy has the top end speed when he needs to break things open. He's a great route runner. He reminds me of a more athletic version of Rondale Moore, if that makes sense. I feel like he's more built than Rondale Moore. Moore is sort of, a do-it-all sort of guy. And he made some plays for the Cardinals this year too. They sort of went away from him in the later half of the year though. I think Jahan Dotson's going to be great. And I think it's a shame that he's, being overshadowed by all of these other wide receivers in the first round. But you know what? That plays really well into the Packers' hands if they want to scoop him up in the second round.
You think he's better than Sky Moore?
I do think he's better than Sky Moore. 100%. Yeah. I think Sky Moore, John Ross effect. It's just the speed, and that's all you're seeing. And I understand speed is probably the most important aspect of the game of football, but I mean, he has every other intangible. I think he's going to be great.
Interesting. I like that. I think he might slip out of the first. Like, I'm literally seeing Sky go in the end of the first round. I'm like, I don't know. I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I don't think there's any.
I wouldn't do it.
I don't think there's any way Jahan makes it past the second. I don't think he's gonna get drafted in the first.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's top of the second though. Like, we're talking like a round pick. If he goes past pick 45, I'd be absolutely shocked.
Yeah,
I don't think he goes past pick 40.
That's a DK Metcalf situation. That's just people overthinking it at that point. Yeah. Like, I just don't know. I just don't know if he falls past pick 45. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, he shouldn't.
All right, Gage, you want to give us your underrated prospect? Yep.
maybe I'm not being as controversial as I think, but I've seen this guy get so much hate, and I don't know if it's widespread as widespread as I'm thinking it is, or if I'm just seeing it. Sam Howell's my QB1. Sorry. I've been saying it for a while now, and I think that I know a lot of people compare him to Baker Mayfield, and I can see those comparisons. I can understand that, but I don't think that that's a completely horrible thing. And I think that he's more athletic in a lot of ways. So I know that he had a not so great year this past year, and I know that he was expected to do a lot more than he was able to do. He comes out, he loses that first game to, what was it, Virginia Tech, I want to say.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of put a bad taste in people's mouths, and they kind of turned away from him, turned a blind eye the rest of the season. But you're looking at a guy that was dealing with a not great defense. The O-line was a little and I'm not trying to put that, like, I'm not trying to use those as excuses for why he didn't play necessarily as good as he could have. But I think that, there's a lot more to him than people are seeing. And I feel like because he's not one of these flashier guys that has the biggest arm in the world or isn't necessarily the fastest, he's getting overlooked. But I personally think he's the most NFL ready quarterback in this draft class.
I think Gage has just been my guy this episode. I agree with that. I mean, because he lost his top 2 running backs, he lost his top 2 receivers, and his O-line was terrible. I mean, like, we're talking, like, it really regressed from last year. And
100%.
I do agree with that. My only thing is, can he retain what he lost? Because mechanics, especially at this age, are a huge thing. And there were a lot of times where he would give up on the play himself. He would just roll out left, or he would just give up on whatever formation they were set in.
Yeah.
And that is a concerning thing for a quarterback. It's, if you mess up your footwork at this type of age, it's very hard to get your consistencies on your 3-step, your 5-step back. So that's why I'm scared for him to be a day one starter. But to say, his arm talent was great. I mean, him and Daz Newsome had an amazing connection that his sophomore year. I think it's not like he's, too short or he doesn't have the arm. I think he's got all the tools. My only thing is just, there are some concerns with it. And I think also an added narrative besides that Virginia Tech thing was just because the top 3 quarterbacks heading in for the 2022 class were Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, and Keaton Slovis, right? And they wanted all, and once Slovis got hurt and Rattler obviously was terrible. They kind of, just piled on with Sam Howell and said, look at the 3 we had up. They're just not ready. And I think that's why Sam is just, I've seen people rank him like 5th or 6th. And to say he's Desmond Ridder is better, I don't agree with that.
I completely agree. I think that Sam Howell is definitely getting overlooked. And even though he's my QB1, I think that the narrative that he's not quite as good or, doesn't have the other athletic aspects that these other guys do is going to play in his favor because he's going to be able to sit wherever he goes.
Right.
And that's really going to help him when he does get that opportunity to start.
That's what I'm hoping he I think if he's gonna go to I also agree with you. I think he's gonna go in the 2nd round. I would hope that a team like maybe Tampa Bay scoops him. I think that would be a really cool one to see. Just because people have already said, oh, okay, maybe Baker can go back up there, but you get a guy with way less baggage, right? A guy who doesn't have this type of brash mouth and is a big personality. He's just gonna be a guy who sits there and learns, right? I know they have Kyle Trask, but I did a scouting report on Kyle Trask. If you ask me to compare the 2, I will take Sam Howell 100 times out of 100. So I do agree in the sense that it also just, I think for quarterbacks too, it just a lot of it depends on situation. It's it's really where you go. And who's to say that Mahomes would have turned out the way he was if he didn't go to Andy Reid and learn behind Alex Smith. Same thing with as much as I don't like him, Sam Darnold. To go in that situation, tire fire. It's tough, right? Your mechanics do tend to fail if you're not given the right supporting cast, especially for a quarterback. So I agree with that on all 3 of your guys' underrated prospects. I'm glad we didn't have, Jameson Williams making me take someone's head off. But but I guess we'll go into Luke's team. He is my go-to Packers guy. And we're going to talk a little bit about them here. Obviously, we could touch on the Devante Adams trade. I know it's a tough subject. I know it was a rough one. I honestly think, because I don't think I've talked about this with you yet. I think the package they got for him wasn't as bad as people think, just because Stephon Diggs went for a 1st and a 6th. So that was the current receiver market. and Adams went for a first and a second. That's a considerable upgrade for a package. And we all know, I think there is a clear level difference between Devante and Stephon Diggs. So
yeah,
I'm not mad at the packages that they got back. Obviously, to let go of him is going to be tough. But I mean, I know people talk about how they were 7-1 without him. Like, yeah, you can bring that up, but I just also think that, I mean, when you have Aaron Rodgers, he's still the most accurate quarterback in the league, and
yeah,
I think receivers can be replaced. So maybe I'll ask you this too: which receiver? I mean, I know we already talked about it in the draft, but I mean, I want Traylon Burks to go there, but I'll let you, take this floor and say which receiver you want to go with.
Yeah. Well, first off, like the package that they got, I think was incredible, especially the fact that they had zero leverage in that trade whatsoever. Devante wanted to go to Las Vegas in the first place. He grew up a Vegas fan. Now his family's going to be able to see him play out west. That's what he truly wanted, that he wanted to play with Derek Carr, obviously. And just the contract that he was on, the Packers were in no way financially able to pay him more than $20 million this year. That just wasn't going to happen on that franchise tag. So they had absolutely zero leverage, and to get a first and a second round pick this year back, I thought was incredible by Brian Gutekunst and Mark Murphy. I thought that was really, although it hurt and it stung in the moment, and literally it happened as soon as we went to go record an episode. So it was fucking tough for me. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here or not, but it was tough. It was real tough. I was going through it. But you don't just replace Davante Adams in just 1 year. He's the best receiver in football, if not number 2 behind Cooper Kupp. You don't replace him in just 1 year. And I think another big piece that some people are overlooking is the fact that they lost Marquez Valdes-Scantling as well. They're trying their darndest to re-sign him, but then obviously Kansas City loses Tyreek Hill. They offer him like $13 million or something. The Packers were not going to be able to do that. Yeah, they lost both of those, and I think people are overlooking Marquez, that loss as well. So they're going to have to replace 2 guys, really. So you're looking for top end speed, and you're looking for just that number 1 go-to guy. I don't know. I'm still debating over who I want, because obviously they have Randall Cobb, and behind him they have Amari Rodgers in the slot. So your slot guys are set for the foreseeable future. So I'm looking at either Chris Olave or I'm looking at Jameson Williams. Yeah. And I'd much rather have Jameson Williams, in my opinion. I think he has a way bigger upside, and he probably, had it not been for that ACL injury, he could be going top 10. He could be the number 1 pick in this draft, but I think people are a little bit skeptical about that. So that's why he dropped in a lot of mock drafts. I think it's Jameson Williams, and I hope to God that they get him. And I hope to God that they actually draft a wide receiver in the first round, because I think too many people are set on they're going to draft a receiver in the first round. I would not be surprised one bit if they go offensive lineman and like edge rusher, or even D tackle. And to be honest, I wouldn't be incredibly upset at that. I would be kind of, ticked off, but just their history of second round wide receiver findings, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Devante Adams, Greg Jennings, Donald, like all of these guys all came in the second round and have all been great receivers for them. So they have a history of showing that they could get diamonds in the rough in later rounds. Doesn't just have to be first round picks. And also just free agency wise, I don't think they're done. You don't need to field a team until September, in case you guys forgot. So now that they just don't have a wide receiver now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to have one come September. I hope, and I think this might be far-fetched, I kind of hope it's Julio Jones. Just because I think if you get him, I think Aaron Rodgers could get the best out of Julio in his later years. I know Julio's been injury riddled the past few years, and he's definitely lost a step, definitely lost some speed over the years. But he's still that guy. He's still going to be dominant. And I'd like to see him be paired with an elite quarterback like Rodgers that could put it just on a dime. And just the fact that he's a veteran, and the Packers don't really have that veteran leadership in the locker room other than Randall Cobb. I think that would do them wonders. So yeah, Julio Jones and Jameson Williams would be a dream come true for me.
Well, I will say one thing about Julio. He's been a dome receiver and a warm weather guy his entire career. So that's going to be a little bit, I'm always the weather. I'm like the weather reporter every time when we record. I'm always like that guy. It's like, well, if a team is traveling 3,000 miles to play a game, you got to take that into consideration. But same thing here. I think Julio, since he is still available, would be a cool find, and I think the Packers would be a type of team to do that. My only concern is, I mean, he's on the back half, obviously, of his career, and just, is he going to be motivated to play in those type of, -1 degree games, right? And for Aaron Rodgers, my thing also is just he builds trust with his guys. Like you can see it on the field. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've heard enough of that 3rd and level, because I saw that live and I was like, okay, that people need to realize that was a true play that he saw before the line of scrimmage. Like he's throwing to Devante, he knows it, and he didn't realize that Lazard was coming on that little dig under. And
he was just wide open, just wide open.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, there are times where I know where he's going every time, and sure, it works because of their chemistry. But now you lose that guy that you've had for 8 years. I mean, it takes time to build up. And as much as I would like a Traylon Burks because he is a guy that can do everything. It's the same type of thing, right? Can you build that connection right away? And you're asking a lot of a guy in year 1 to do that, right? Like a 21-year-old rookie to go in, play with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And the expectations are going to be there with the Packers no matter what, as long as they got number 12. So that's just going to be on the guys that they get. I mean, I think George Pickens would be another interesting one, maybe in the
Christian
back half
Watson
of the
as
second round.
well.
Yeah.
Christian Watson,
It's just a lot of things up in the air with Green Bay. I mean, I think you're still pretty confident though that they take the NFC North, right? I'm sure you're still pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this last night. I think the Vikings have a way better team than people give them credit for. Secondary is definitely rough right now. Harrison Smith is, in his last remaining years, he's not the elite Harrison Smith that we all grew up watching anymore. I'd say definitely lost some speed and just isn't as reactive, isn't as quick to the point of the ball. They have a tremendous front seven, and that can't be understated. I know that they lost Michael Pierce, but I mean, they still have a lot of Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, Danielle Hunter comes back healthy. Zadarius Smith now. Yeah, that one hurt. I mean, Eric Kendricks is, an all-pro linebacker as well. And who's our other linebacker? Did they just get not Anthony Walker?
Anthony Barr?
No, Anthony Barr didn't resign, I believe.
Oh, right. You're right. No, sorry. Troy Dye. You think about Troy Dye?
I think it's Jordan Hicks.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
He's great too. This Vikings team is gonna be tough. But the thing with the Vikings is I know that they had injuries last year, but for some reason they just always seem to disappoint. And I don't know how aggressive they're going to be this season offensively with Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell's going to do, work wonders for them. But I just don't think that's going to, sorry, dry throat. It happens. I don't think it's going to necessarily be a year 1 thing where everything just clicks. I think Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are a great combo. And then Dalvin Cook, who just changed his number to number 4. Yep. So whoever has his jersey is probably pissed. I think they have the pieces right now. And Kirk Cousins, for what it's worth, I think is a top 15 quarterback for sure. And I think he gets too much hate. He had one of his best seasons of his career last year. It was just that it was in a down year for the Vikings where they had a lot of injuries. And I mean, they had a head coach who should not have been coaching anymore. So I think a lot of things went wrong for them last year. I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see them as a wild card, but listen, they're going to split with the Packers for the foreseeable future. I don't think that's going to change. I mean, last year they stole one from them on a game-winning field goal. I think it's going to be the same thing this year. They're the toughest matchup. Lions, I mean, they're the Lions. The Bears. So it's really just a 2-man race in the NFC North, but I think Packers still come out on top from top to bottom. I think they have the best roster in not even just in that division, I think in the league, aside from receiver.
Interesting. Top to bottom, you think the Packers have the best? Ooh, I don't know about. I think LA might have your guys' number.
I think LA, and I think Tampa as well.
Tampa too.
But I think this Packers defense is emerging and blossoming, and I think they're going to truly. I mean, they were just sneaked into the top 10 last year, or were they 11th? The past 2 years, they've been fringe top 10. I think this year is going to be the year where Rashawn Gary takes a step forward. I hope Darnell Savage actually, takes a step forward as well, because he's kind of been just swimming in there. Adrian Amos, I think, is the most underrated safety in the league, if not one of the most underrated players in the league.
Agreed.
So I think, and Preston Smith, for what it's worth, had a great comeback season last year after a down 2020 season. So I think this Packers defense is And Devondre Campbell as well, getting him back. Jaire Alexander comes back healthy. Their whole secondary, really, Eric Stokes and Rasul Douglas. I'm liking this defense for the first time ever.
I mean, especially with Jaire. You're going to get Jaire on one side, Stokes, who, remember, everyone hated the pick. I thought it was a great pick. I mean,
that's what they needed, speed at the cornerback position after who burnt Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller
Kevin
was the
King
reason
got burned by Scotty
Scotty Miller was the reason Eric Stokes was drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Right,
That's
exactly. I mean, I think the Vikings, for me, last year, people call it a down year, but it really just came down to those one possession games. They lost six of them. So, I mean, I think they were a 7 or 8. I think they were 7-10 last year. To go lose 6 of those, right? And like the game winner to Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of them, and then the one where Greg Joseph misses the field goal versus the Cardinals. Like that, it's just those itty bitty things that the Vikings have always had, kind of hamper their shoulders. They haven't won this division since, I believe, 2017. So it's not like, I can predict it right away, but I think it's a closer 2-man race than it has been since LaFleur has been there. I think this is the closest it's been since 2019. But do you still give this team a shot to win the NFC? Because it is wide open. I mean, let's be honest.
I think any year you have Aaron Rodgers on the field, you have a chance to win the NFC. I think it's just going to take. It's first off, it's going to take getting to the playoffs. That's first. And, we haven't seen this team without Devante Adams in quite some time, but under Matt LaFleur, they've been quite good without Devante Adams. I think it's going to make Aaron Rodgers spread the ball out more. It's going to make this much more dynamic offense and hopefully make them a more run heavy offense. I don't know why you think you could win games being a pass heavy offense in Green Bay, fucking Wisconsin. That just doesn't make sense. I think it's finally adding up, and, the NFC is getting better. They're getting a lot better. Same with the AFC, with the whole AFC West. But I think any season you have Aaron Rodgers, you got a shot.
Yeah, I still find it crazy that you three are all NFC fans and you don't have to deal with the loaded ass AFC that I have to be an unfortunate fan of for the foreseeable future. But we're gonna switch it, I guess, to Jake with the Seahawks. We talked a lot about Ken Norton Jr., so I won't bring that up because that's gonna be another
thank you. I appreciate
hour-long.
that.
Yeah, of course, I got you. Obviously that's a sore subject, but let's go in a little bit of a more positive light, which obviously this is just a question because at pick 9. We obviously don't know who's going to slip, who's going to be there, but who would you want? I mean, I know you already said Kayvon Thibodeau, but I mean, like realistic, because I just don't see him.
I don't see him falling either, but
I mean, would you be okay with a Jermaine Johnson there? Like, well, who would you want there?
No, absolutely not. I do not, and I can't emphasize this enough. They're terrible at taking pass rushers early on. They are awful. LJ Collier sucks. He sucks. Like it's just they're really bad taking pass rushers early. Rasheem Green, he was an early 3rd round pick. He hasn't been anything. It's just not pretty when the Seahawks go pass rusher. It is either offensive tackle, Sauce Gardner, or quarterback. That is it. That's what they're doing. And it can't be maybe Tyler Linderbaum. I would be okay with that too. But I think those are your 3 options. If you go outside of that at all, it better be Kayvon Thibodeau. That is the only person I would be okay with. But yeah, it's got to be an offensive tackle, whichever of the, we all know those offensive tackles that are going in the top 10, whichever of them falls, they're all great. I would want either one of them, Charles Cross, Ike Mekwonu, but he's been climbing, Evan Neal, whoever it is, even if it's, if it's Trevor Penning or Bernard Ryman, I think I would they're kind of the wild cards. They can go top 12. They can go in the 30s. Like we don't know.
I don't know where Ryman was getting all this first round. Like he's a good tackle. Don't get me wrong. I just thought he was going to be one of those 2nd round steals. It was similar to Tevin Jenkins last year.
Yeah.
Who just really rose up.
I think
it's a bit on the older side too. Ryman.
Yeah. And I think it's actually kind of guilty by association. I think it's just everybody sees the top tackles in the draft and is like, oh, they all must be 1st round picks. And it's like, no, like so you got your 1st round class, and then you got the guys that, late 1st, 2nd, like they can go either way in there. So I'll be okay with Trevor Penning. I think that would be the next guy up. If it wasn't, that top tier class of guys, I'd be okay with him. Corner, it's either Sauce Gardner. I'd be all right. Luke's mock Derek Stingley to the Seahawks. I'd be okay with that.
I'm telling you, he's going to be the best DB in this. Maybe
I agree
Hamilton,
with you, but I think they're going to take, like, if Sauce is there, I think for Seattle, just because again of his size, and you want a guy who's more Oh, sorry, dry throat again.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want a guy who's I guess more polished right now and ready to start
Yeah.
because Stingley, you're relying on that 2019 tape,
Yeah.
and it's like
Mm.
that's why like I have Stingley to the Viking. I think a lot of people do. I had
Yeah,
Cross
that
to
makes
you guys
sense.
at 9.
Yeah.
Because I think
Great. Love
Ekwonu,
Charles Cross. Yep.
yeah, I think Ekwonu and Neal would go around top 3 to 5.
Mhm.
I can't
What
see the
about
Texans.
quarterback? What about quarterback?
I would be all right. I would
I'm-
be
I'm
okay with
iffy
it.
on it.
Willis?
I've seen so many. I was furious when I saw the mock drafts giving us a quarterback. Pretty much like everybody's mock draft 1.0 gave Seattle a quarterback. Like that's just how it went. And I was really pissed about that because I was like, I do not want a quarterback in this class.
Unless it's Carson Strong.
If we end up, I wouldn't be surprised. First of all, with Pete Carroll, dude, if you mention Carson Strong, if Carson Strong goes before the 4th round, Jesus, that is a bad pick.
What about Jack Cohen?
Carson Strong before the 4th.
Long
There's
Island
no
boy
way.
though. Long
Actually,
Island
no,
boy
I
though.
think
Jack.
you'll be surprised. I think Carson Strong will go before. Like, I mean, I think someone's gonna reach on him.
He's
I think
so
for
he's
sure.
he is just an ACL injury waiting to happen. Carson Strong, like it is bad. He
He
has
worked out with
I
our
have
starting QB at Cal.
I have
so I can't even say
now
much about
I
him.
have never seen somebody that literally encapsulates the saying statue in the pocket besides Carson Strong. I turned on that tape and I was like, this guy is going to get killed in the pot. He can't move. He can't move. But anyway,
Jake mocked Carson Strong at the end of one of our first mock drafts, by the way.
I mocked him to
Detroit.
Tampa.
Oh, to Tampa.
No, I mocked
yes.
him to Tampa. Not because I thought it was a good pick, because
Oh.
I know how Bruce Arians thinks, and he loves the big arm guys.
He's not
And I
Before
just
Bruce
thought-
Arians.
Yeah,
moved.
before.
Right.
This is when Tom was retired. So that was, and plus I just thought I think Bruce Arians was just like salivating at the mouth at Carson Strong just with his offense. Like I don't think that's a crazy take, but yeah, if it's Malik Willis, I can palate that. Even though I just said I don't think he deserves to be top 10, which I still don't think he deserves to be top 10, but I see the talent with him. So I'd be okay with it. I would be able to sleep at night with it, but it's not what I want. I want
Seattle's
corner,
gotta win.
tackle in this draft.
Yeah.
Go after a quarterback next year.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you take a tackle, right? Let's say you do take Charles Cross or one of the big 3.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be franchise altering year 1,
Yeah.
changing type of guys, right? So this is just a player that you at pick 9 that you're getting to at least help this rebuild start. Get cornerstone players, right? It all starts with that. And I mean, like that's how Seattle really rose up. They just got a bunch of guys who could play, know their role, and when people tell me like, oh, Cam Chancellor is would be a top 5 safety of all time if he went to any team. I don't know about you guys, but I disagree. I think their unit,
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
right? Their unit as a group, and I think we talked about this last time, right? Zone and then man outside. That defensive scheme and that unit with all the guys. You're talking Byron Maxwell, Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor,
They
Brandon
all fit
Meade,
it perfectly.
right? Like they just gelled so well, and
Yeah.
I think that's what Seattle just needs to do. I think they need to get guys that really know their role, and obviously, no one that, not one of these like big time flashy guys. I think that's how Seattle really builds this up, and I think next year they should be in the play-in for a QB. I think them and Atlanta would be 2 teams that I just think should wait on it. 2023, they can get a good, solid QB out of there, and I think that's where you take the Raiders and see what Drew Lock can do. I mean, he's only what
I'm
it's
okay
his
with
3rd
that.
year in the league, or 4th
Yeah.
year. I mean, let him go.
And we'd seen good tape in the NFL. Like his first year, those 6 games that he played in his rookie year, they were awesome.
Weren't bad.
They
yeah.
were awesome. And just a point I just want to mention about that Seattle scheme. That's a great point that doesn't get brought up enough, is that the defense wasn't created for Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, for those guys to fit into it. It was created based on them.
Right.
Because it was created around them. Whenever somebody runs the Seattle scheme, what do they say? Oh, that team's trying. Oh, they drafted Keanu Neal. Why? Because they're trying to get a Cam Chancellor. Oh, they're trying to get their Earl Thomas here. They're trying to get their Richard Sherman. They're trying to get their Bobby Wagner. Every little intricacy of that defense was made for that team. It was created for them. It was designed for them.
I mean, yeah, you can see it when the players leave there, right? There's when Byron Maxwell went to go to Miami, right? I remember everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's look." You saw what he did in the LOB. He's going to be the number 1 corner for them. what happened? I mean,
Yeah.
they had a perfect setup for everybody. Like, I literally just named you from top to bottom. That team on all three phases played so well together. I think that's what it's going to take for, this team to kind of rebuild it again. And they've got the personnel to do it.
I agree with that. And I think, who's to say if you take a Charles Cross at 9, that Matt Corral doesn't slip to the second round? Who's to say that doesn't happen? Who's to say Sam Howell isn't available in the second round?
Oh my God. I would love Corral to Seattle.
If we get Corral in the second round, dude, I am flipping your shit. We won the draft hands down. That is a W. Jameis Winston eating W's all day. Like that is that. Like I don't even give a shit. We could tank the rest of the drafts. We could Ricky Williams the rest of our draft. Sorry, Gage. And like I would just be over the moon.
In here.
Yeah. But yeah. So like, and who's to say that? That's a very real possibility. A lot of these mock drafts have Sam Howell and Matt Corral not in them and not in the first round. That could happen. Seattle's a high second round pick. So I really hope they stick to their game plan. Obviously, with Pete Carroll, John Schneider, the risk of trading down is always there. It's always there. So we'll see what happens. I hope they have a plan. I usually don't turn on the TV until day 2. That's what I do with Seattle because it's like day 1. It's like it's a wash. It's like this guy's
a weird feeling this year now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Jordan Brooks has turned out well again. Rashad Penny had the emergence this year, so it's actually giving me a reason to like I need to go watch it now because they've actually started hitting on the first round picks. But I just hope they don't screw. I hope they don't overthink this. I hope they don't reach. They can't fuck this up. They really can't.
They cannot. Yeah, you gave up your franchise corner. You cannot. But I'll give you I want one final thought on this because I think obviously you've probably heard what Baker said today.
Yeah.
He said Seattle is probably his most prolific fit, and I think with all the leverage that the Browns have lost, I think he's gonna go for like a 4th or a 5th. Would you give that up for him? Would you want him on your team?
Absolutely. I have been a Baker supporter through thick and thin. The guy is a good quarterback. You can't tell me that there are even 13 guys in the NFL that deserve to be starting over Baker Mayfield. That's just ridiculous.
13?
I think that's
wow.
stupid.
Whoa.
I think at his best, Baker is 100% top 16, 100%.
Oh yeah.
He just had an injury. I just think like the second year, what happened that year? Freddie Kitchens had no credibility to be he had no idea what the fuck he was doing. He screwed up that team. They had no leadership. They had no guidance. That is not on him as a second-year quarterback with what Freddie Kitchens did to that team. Because everybody underperformed. Everybody on the Browns underperformed. It wasn't just Baker Mayfield. Yeah. 4th year, injury. Again, a bunch of injuries around him. Nick Chubb got the Iron Man. Nick Chubb.
We lost 3 linemen.
Yeah. Yep. Like everybody was getting hurt. Jarvis Landry was out. His receivers were getting injured. DPJ was his number 1 receiver for a couple weeks there. So like so much more happened in the season. And it's so unfair. It's so funny the argument that gets brought up. Oh, that wasn't Baker that brought them to the playoffs. Look at the team that he had around him. Oh, Baker sucked this year. It's all his fault. It's like you're come on. Yeah. What are you doing? These are 2 different arguments. You can't just blame one thing blame the entire season on him here, but then give him no credit for the season here. It's so unfair. And that's how you pick out a Baker hater. It's just the way it is. The guy has talent. There's a reason he was first overall pick. I do not look at Baker Mayfield and go, that guy's a bust. You just can't. You can't look at him because the talent's there. He's put it on tape. He's done it. He won a fucking playoff game for the Cleveland Browns, people. I feel like that is
people are overlooking that. That's
and a 91 QBR in the game. He threw 3 touchdown passes.
He was unreal in that game. He was great. He was great. Away game.
You want to know who we didn't have in that game either? We didn't have Denzel Ward, Joel Bitonio. We didn't have 5 offensive coaches. 5 offensive coaches. And he still went out there.
Head coach. Wasn't Kevin Stefanski out?
Yep, Stefanski was out. Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And they were Chad Henne for rushing first down.
Literally that one play.
Championship.
My only thing with Baker and the only thing that I had and I think people don't bring this up though, is yes, there were times where it would be a 2-minute drill and we needed a touchdown drive out of him and he would just flat out he would sell like the game against the Chiefs. Yes, it was Chad Henne's run, but also Carl Joseph in that game got a pick with 5 minutes to go and you're down 5, right? 5 minutes to go in the 4th. and he only gets 1 first down. So there he has his moments, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you got to step up here. But again, stability is all this guy needs. I mean, this guy's had 4 head coaches in 4 years. Like, really, come on. I mean, give him some stability. And it's, fine, even if it's not going to be with us. I've kind of conceded that. And we know now it's over. I mean, a guy with his personality is not going to come back in that locker room. But I mean, to say he can't go to Seattle, a team with a good culture. Say what you want about what they, the last season, but they've been one of the best teams in the entire NFL for the past decade. I mean, for him to go there, great receiving core still. I mean, sure, the roster may not be as good as Cleveland. Sure, the offensive line's not as good, but I mean, at least he has some type of stability there, and I think give him some time. Who's to say he can't perform like he did in the back half of 2020? Because PFF had him number 4, and out of all quarterbacks that year. So
and listen, like our offense, like say what you want about the Seahawks, the offense ain't far away. It's not. It's honestly some O linemen outside the O line, like DK, Tyler Lockett. That's as good a pair as you're going to get in the NFL. Rashad Penny, Chris Carson. If they stay healthy, we saw what Rashad Penny could do. One of the best running backs in the NFL, second half of the season last year. And then you got Noah Fant. Who is the first player in Seattle Seahawks history to have his 5th-year option picked up, which is absolutely unreal. That was revealed today.
Is that really true?
That's true.
Wild.
That's crazy.
That's
a quarterback has never played on their 5th year before.
Ooh. Never played? Really?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
If Baker plays this year, he will be the first.
What about Darnold? Darnold didn't play?
Yeah, so he and Darnold will be the first, I guess. Yeah. But no quarterback has done it before.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. I love that we got Noah Fant in that trade. That was an underrated asset that we got there. So listen, Baker slots in there really well. The only thing, I love Baker. I want him on the Seahawks. Like, let's make that clear. I would love it. The only thing it does, excuse me, it doesn't make a lot of sense now because Drew Lock and him are in very similar situations as like
to prove it type of
they have the talent. They got to prove. Obviously, Baker's proven it. He's proven it. He's put the tape out there. Drew Lock has much more to prove than Baker Mayfield does. But it would just be kind of redundant to have Baker Mayfield as well as having Drew Lock. They're both big arm guys, have something to prove. Not the best decision makers. Like they're very similar in a lot of ways. They try to play hero ball a little too much, and it doesn't go well all the time. But so that's the only reason. That's the only thing that's holding me back from thinking it's a reality. But if the trade does happen, if the Seahawks give up, a 5th round pick for Baker Mayfield, I am over the moon. I love Baker. I'll probably be one of the first people to buy his jerseys. Like I love Baker Mayfield. I think he is a starting quarterback in this league. I think he gets way too much hate. And just because I support him doesn't mean I don't see his flaws. He has flaws. He absolutely does.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not out here saying.
Oh yeah, believe me, as a Browns fan, I've dealt with it. But he's got upside too. I mean, also the thing is though with Baker, it's like at least he has a chance to be a franchise quarterback for Seattle. Like you're still banking on taking a guy in the draft. Also with Drew Lock, it's like I just have way less faith in him becoming a franchise guy than I do in Baker. Because at least Baker's had stretches where he is. I mean, Drew Lock's rookie year for me is just not enough. And I think Baker's had 2 good years, the rookie year and the 3rd year. That's enough tape for me to believe he can be a franchise QB in this league.
Absolutely.
So maybe to switch it up, Gage, I know you've waited your turn, but I do want to talk about the Saints. Drew Brees was one of my favorite QBs of all time. So, I had a little bit of Saints left. Yeah. And the last 4, I mean, I feel for you. That 2017 to 2021 stretch I feel for you, man. Like it's been rough. But I guess, I wanted to start off with the draft thing because people have been saying you guys want to trade up for Willis or stay in hope for Pickett. I want to ask you on that. Do you which one do you want more? Would you rather just stay and wait for one of them, or would you really be willing to go up and, snag a guy in the top 10?
If I have to choose one of those things, I would rather stay where we are, wait for a guy to potentially fall, take Pickett or something like that. Right. But all in all, I don't want a quarterback. I just don't at either of those positions in the first round, whatever the case may be. I don't want a quarterback right now. Potentially put it off to next year. I am fully confident in Jameis. I really liked what he put on the field last season before he got hurt against Tampa Bay. And I think that he could really be our franchise guy going forward. And I would rather give him the benefit of the doubt than put a guy behind him and potentially waste, draft stock on something that we could use right now that we need right now.
I agree with that. I think they got to take a Q. I think they're going to take one in the draft, though. I think they have to.
They will.
Because if Jameis gets hurt, right? Like what happened last year, they were 4-2, 5-2 without him, right? And then once he goes, it just tanked. Like the season, like they really had a shot at the wild card, right? Like we were talking about them right after they upset the Bucs. Like they were in legit talks of being in the NFC playoff race, and then just kind of went downhill. So yeah, keep going.
I could see that for sure. I mean, we lose Trevor Siemian. It's announced that Taysom Hill is obviously going to play more tight end, and I think that's great for him. I think that he'll fill that role very well, and I think that I'd rather have him in that role than quarterback. And then we pick up Andy Dalton, who I think that's a good spot for him in that QB2 spot, kind of sit there. But we were just talking about with Jake when he was talking about the draft and the Seahawks and everything about potentially one of these other quarterbacks falling to the second. We have 3 picks in the top 50. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even outside of our first round picks, we have an early second round pick. So if a guy like Matt Corral, Sam Howell is there, I would be perfectly fine taking one of those 2 guys if we're going to take a quarterback.
Yep.
But in the first round, I would much rather go offensive tackle and receiver. That's all I want. Maybe like D tackle or something. But
I mean, if Jordan Davis maybe slides to like 19, I mean, you cannot.
Like Devante Y as well.
Right. Yeah.
Gage hates that. Gage hates that. I mocked him.
I mean, well, I feel like he's more like I feel like you could put him more at edge than like true interior D lineman. Like he's not a nose tackle in my opinion.
I feel like he'd be good opposite side of Cam Jordan.
Right.
Sprinkle him in there with Marcus Davenport as well.
Mm-hmm. And Marcus Davenport, I know a lot of people don't see the upside, but as someone that watches all the games, Marcus Davenport's fantastic. It's just about actually keeping him on the field. So
I agree.
We've got some pieces there, and I could understand if we potentially take a D tackle or something like that to kind of fill that need if we do need more pass rushing. But for me, I mean, all in all, offensive tackle, receiver.
So for receiver, would you go Jamo or Olave? Because I remember we talked about this last time. Olave would be a tremendous fit, but Jamo, I mean, he's just a do-it-all guy. Like I find it so hard if he's there to just say, nah, we're gonna.
It is very, very difficult for me because I agree. I love Jamo. I think that he's going to be a great receiver for a very long time in this league. And I think that he offers some things that we don't have at the receiver position right now, even with Michael Thomas, because they have 2 different skill sets. But with the injury, he doesn't offer immediate stability at the receiver position outside of Michael Thomas. And with a guy like Chris Olave, who I've mocked to us a couple different times now, I think that even though he doesn't have as much upside, he has that wide receiver 2 upside for me that I think that he could come in, make an immediate impact. I think that he fits. He's an Ohio State guy, and we love those guys for some reason, pairing him with Michael Thomas, and I think that would work.
Your entire defense, bro. It's like all Ohio State.
You take Ohio State and sprinkle it over the Saints, and you got a team.
You want Urban Meyer too?
I would think so.
I think so.
I mean, might as well, right?
No.
I mean, he was the coach for all of them.
He was. I think that would be a great fit.
If he comes with a couple bottles of bleach, maybe, if you get what I'm picking, if you're picking up what I'm putting down there.
More than kind of catching your drift there.
But yeah, I think I've been going back and forth with it. If we take Jamo, I won't be upset. But I think for me personally, I would rather take Olave just because I would rather have that immediate impact guy.
Right. So
and it's not and we have MT. If we didn't have Michael Thomas, if we needed a guy just in general, a guy that's going to be the wide receiver 1 for however many years, Jamo's the guy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and people are like, I mean, obviously, to say that MT is not a top, 5 to 6 receiver when healthy, it's like, I mean, people just forget this dude had 148 catches in a season in like 15 and a half games. I mean, that's absurd. Like this dude, that 2019 season, I know CMC didn't win Offensive Player of the Year, and I know it kind of riled up some people, but this dude totally deserved it. I mean, to go, I think the Saints were 13-3 that year. Yeah. Like they had an all-world type of season, and he was a big part of that. Which leads me into my next question, final question. The NFC South, obviously it's going to be, a lot of up and down besides Tampa Bay. But where do you see the Saints finishing in the division?
I think second is reasonable. I think it's hard for me to just come out and say that, oh, we'll finish first. Tampa Bay, who, even though, we sweep them, it's fine, whatever. But I think that the Falcons are obviously more so in a rebuild right now than anything else. They don't have a great roster right now. Maybe they'll build through the draft and put together a little something. The Panthers, with their quarterback situation, I don't have a lot of confidence in them. They've got some pieces kind of spread out here and there, but their roster as a whole,
though.
If he can stay on the field,
healthy.
The yards per play for Carolina dipped by 4 yards per play when CMC got hurt. Like that. That's crazy to me.
It's insane. But I think that we're not as far off as people may think, just because, obviously we lose some pieces. Our safety position looks a little bit rough right now because we lose Malcolm Jenkins. Marcus Williams goes to the Ravens. But I think that we kind of filled in those spots decently. Marcus May, I think, is a big pickup. We didn't pay him a ton of money, and he's going to be a solid fill-in at that spot. Daniel Sorensen, on the other hand, I think I'm hoping
big pickup.
Is going to be more of a special teams guy than a defensive guy. And I
hate Daniel Sorensen. He was responsible for the targeting hit in the Browns playoff game. Guy.
Not a fan of that signing personally. Hoping just special teams. I am waiting for the Tyrann Mathieu news any day now, hopefully.
For when he signs with the Rams.
That would be so. I really do not want, that'll hurt Jordan Fuller's development so much. I would be so mad if that happened. They don't need him. They don't.
But I think we have a lot of talent still on this roster, even on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what the deal is with Alvin Kamara and what's going to happen there. I'm sure there will be some sort of suspension, so we could probably use another running back just to
I love how nobody talked about it. It was news for a day. Nobody just mentioned how this guy got arrested.
It was like a week or two later. I was scrolling through Instagram, and the dude's in Paris with some girl. It's like, what? He's out of the country? He just beat the crap out of a guy. What is going on here? So I have no idea what's going on there.
About it, man.
But talented running back when he's on the field. If he's on the field this year, Michael Thomas should come back healthy, hopefully. Jameis Winston played well. Our offensive line, despite losing Teron Armstead, is still pretty decent. And I have confidence in the guys that we could put at left tackle still that are already on the team, but I do think we'll address that position as well. Ryan Ramczyk, all pro level right tackle right there. Mm-hmm. So I think that, we can compete. There's a potential for first place if Tampa Bay...
still starting Eric McCoy, right? You guys still using him?
Okay. All right. I don't know if we had to bring him up, but sore subject for Saints fans right now. He had
I know. You guys took him in the first round, and I was like, okay, this guy could be good. And then I think last year he had just
his first year was pretty good. He looked good. I was pretty happy with the pick. And then this past year, atrocious, just bad. And our O-line was injury riddled to begin with. And then his bad play didn't help anything. So I know a lot of but fans want him gone right now. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, come back next year. The O-line's healthy. Maybe he has a little more help and that does something for him. We'll see what happens.
Well, all right. I kind of agree with you. I think the Saints will finish second just because if the Falcons really wanted to, let's say even if they didn't go with Marcus Mariota, let's say they had traded for Baker or something like that, I would have given him a shot. I just don't because they were 7-2 last year in one possession games with a rookie head coach and no Calvin Ridley. That's impressive. Say what you want about the Falcons, but that's still pretty good. But you're right. I just think they also know it themselves. They're planning for the long run. They're really putting assets into 2023. And obviously I think this is a year to see, what pieces can we go into 2023 with. Obviously Kyle Pitts is going to be one of them, but we're going to see, what the 8th pick can do with them. And then same thing for the Panthers. They're going to be aggressive as hell as they always are with Matt Rule and David Tepper. But we all know through thick and thin, this team is they're just too, I guess, even defensively, we keep saying they're young, they're a year away. But what is this defense going to really achieve for this team?
Especially after losing Stephon Gilmore.
Right.
They don't.
Dante
Jackson's
Brian Burns
there.
And all of them.
Yeah. They have a really young emerging defense. It's just when are they going to actually,
exactly
take that next step?
Yeah, CJ Henderson is there.
Jeremy
JC
Chin.
Horn hopefully comes back the same. Obviously, he broke his foot. They've got some good pieces. It's just the only problem is I think the Saints, even without Sean Payton, I love Dennis Allen was my favorite defensive coordinator, so
Yeah.
he's gonna be just fine. And obviously, they've held their own against Tampa. So
Yeah, he was my favorite to land the job as soon as Sean Payton decided that he was not retiring but stepping away from coaching.
yeah,
we'll
we
see
know
how
where
that
he's
plays
going.
out. But
Yeah, next he was gonna go to Miami with Tom. There was like a whole rumor about that,
Yeah,
but
I
then when the
heard
whole
about
Flores situation happened, then it all fell
Yeah.
through.
But I think Dennis Allen will do fine. He stepped in for that Tampa Bay game, the second one. So
But they won 9-0. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he's capable. The players know him. He's comfortable with the rest of the staff. I think that he'll do fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess to round this episode out, this was really fun, guys. I got all three of your guys' opinions. That was really cool because, I mean, we talk about the Browns enough on our show and like Carson Wentz and all my like Josh Allen, all my favorite players. So to get a little bit of an outside scoop to these guys was really fun. But again, they have been the Totally Unqualified Podcast. Please check them out on all platforms down below. Leave them a 5-star rating. I'll leave their guys' TikToks also in the description and their personal Instas and socials. So feel free to follow them as well. Leave us a 5-star rating too if you're going to do that. Again, we have been the Cold Hard Truth NFL Podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.